All right, we're going to call this meeting to order. Could we please have roll call?
Yes, you may. Councilmember Shacker.
Here.
Councilmember Perkins.
Here.
Councilmember Phillips.
Here.
Councilmember McCafferty.
Here.
Councilmember Armstrong.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Granillo.
Here.
Mayor Miller.
Here.
Commissioner Walker. It's not. Commissioner Schweitzer.
Here.
Commissioner Penn.
Here.
Commissioner Metters.
Here.
Commissioner Zamudio.
Here.
Vice Chair Pasiak.
Here.
Chair Merritt.
Here. Okay, I'm going to turn the meeting over to the town manager for a quick review of what we're doing.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members and commission members for being here tonight. So tonight is an opportunity for the council and the commission members to get more information on what's been going on with our general plan, get an update from Matrix, our consultants, to provide input. And tonight is not a night where we'll be having public input. We have done a lot of work getting public input up to this point, and we will continue to do so. And we want the public to know that they can go on our website at www.makeitchinogeneralplan.com and continue to provide input. And we welcome you to do that. And with that, I will turn it over to Celeste with Matrix. Thank you.
Use the mic? Okay. Well, good evening, everybody. I am Celeste Warner, Honorable Mayor, Council members, and Planning Commission. On behalf of Matrix, we're very excited to be here this evening, and welcome to all the public who are here in person, as well as hopefully joining us live this evening. So what we'd like to do is we have go through the agenda here, what we're going to be presenting today, and what the purpose of today's meeting, the work session is. But first, I'd like to introduce the rest of the Matrix team who is here joining you this evening. We do have a much larger staff of subject matter experts from planners, engineers, economists, and such who have been working with us diligently behind the scenes. But we have the project manager, Mr. Ren Cox, the deputy project manager, Ed Boyk, and senior planner, Miss Heather Garbarino. They've been doing a great portion of the heavy lifting as well, and we're, as I said, excited to be here. So what we're going to do this evening, we're going to give you a little update on what we've been doing on this project. And after we go through the update, we're going to highlight some of the public engagement inputs that we have received from 2 open house meetings. Both of them have been very, very well attended. So we're excited to share that input and make sure that you know that we've heard their voices. We want to share their voices with all of you. And we want to provide that, they'll be providing us guidance as we move forward. And so the purpose of tonight's meeting is to hear from all of you on the direction you believe the 2040 plan should be taking, especially after hearing what we've been hearing from the constituents, at least who have been participating to date. After we go through the exercise, we'll go from the presentation, and while we're going through the presentation of the open house input, we're going to be asking you different questions. And those questions are really going to help us develop your plan. This is not our plan, and we really do need direction from everybody, including elected and appointed officials. And then we're going to close with, well, what's next? Where do we go from here? What's the full timeline? What are you going to be seeing from us in the next couple months? So the next 2 months are going to be very, very busy. We have a lot that we have been working on already, and been writing, and we look forward to sharing that with you as well. So as far as our project update, you'll see a generalized timeline to the right. It's the exact same timeline that we started with at the beginning of the project. And you'll see where we are. We're in the March, April area where we're going to be developing the general plan from all the different input and the assessment evaluation that we've all done throughout, looking at the existing conditions, where you are today as a baseline, where are the deficiencies, where are your surpluses, how do we get from where we are today to 2040, in all of the different areas, from circulation to public facilities, your services that you provide to your constituents and the citizens. March, April, May. April, May is when we hit the 60-day public review period. That's going to be really important. What we would call the draft plan will be going to the public, so we call it a public draft. And we hope that we'll get as much input as we've been getting throughout the process to date, and hopefully even more. And then we'll be holding in June public hearings, first with the Planning Zoning Commission, and then with the council, town council. And at that June, in those public meetings in June, that's where you're going to be reviewing what we call the final draft. It's not final until hopefully it is approved in June. And the final draft will be taking into consideration all of the different comments that we heard during the public 60-day review period. So that's the process by law, by state law, that we all have to follow. And then it will go to vote in November for ratification by the citizens. There has to be a 120-day period, pause period basically, between the date that your general plan is approved by council and the date that it goes to vote in November. Anything that I missed? Good. So before we go any further, we do have a presentation. You'll see around the room a number of the plots, or we'll call them boards, that were used at the public meeting yesterday, and the feedback that we received from the people who were there. But we really want this meeting to be an informal, a truly work session of informal dialogue, great discussion. And as I stated, I just want to reiterate, the purpose is to be able to, at the end of the meeting, to have a real good understanding of the direction where you would like the general plan to be for 2040 as we move forward. So if you, we had the public, the open house and steering committee meetings, as well as a meeting with all of you at the beginning, and we talked about the vision. And there were a number of different alternatives that came forward, and we worked and we massaged and worked with staff. We worked with the committee and our technical staff at Matrix. And this is the vision statement that we hopefully believe that captured what everybody would like to see within 2040. And I use that word everybody. It's very difficult to get full consensus, but I like to read it to you. It says, Chino Valley is a peaceful, affordable, rural community that supports recreation and regional tourism. We are committed to preserving our community's expansive vistas, endless grasslands, and starry night skies, while supporting limited and sustainable growth. Our proud agricultural and equestrian tradition makes Chino Valley a desirable place to build a future. So what we heard, we did our very best to integrate those key items that people were very passionate about, why they live here, why they moved here. And we've heard, rural community, friendly people. We wanted to be maintain an affordable community. The dark skies, we want to hold on and celebrate our historical, the culture from in the past. But yet we know we have to grow, but make sure that we're growing sustainably and smartly. So any questions on the vision, any input or additional comments? Yes.
How much support was there for affordable? Fair question.
That's a very good question. It's a very good question because I would say it was a mix. It was a mix, and people use different words for the word affordable. Workforce housing, houses that were a mix, a choice of housing, so we would be able to bring in people, provide affordable housing back to the workforce housing, right? Or if our children want to come back to live the community that they grew up in, maybe after they went to college, or a first time they got married and they would like their first home, they want it to be affordable, maybe a stair step type of. So the word, this is the time to hear from all of you. If you think affordable needs to stay there, if we need to change that word, we could pick up affordable, like we're going to be picking up many items within the policies, the goals and policies of the general plan under each of the different topics that you see there. There's 5 different topics, such as land use, circulation, economic development, parks and rec, public facilities. Any discussion? Does anybody?
Can you define affordable?
I would rather have you all define affordable because that is a very good question as well. So I think affordable would be something different between each and every one of us, right? Based on everybody's income and what they believe is how much money they want to put towards a home. So
I think it's a little broad. I might just take it out of there.
I kind of agree, because affordable could be
Anything.
affordable to a person's income or affordable compared to Prescott or Prescott Valley. I mean, so I would say.
okay, we can do that.
Affordable kind of has the connotation that we don't really know what we're trying to do, and affordable housing is a misnomer anyways. So I think it's a good idea to do away with that word.
Okay.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, thank you. And if there's any other discussion, if not, we'll move forward and we'll go ahead and delete the word affordable out of there. Great discussion. Thank you. Okay, public engagement. So engagement, it's really about what we've heard, right? Getting input from the public as well. So we've had we put up developed the project website and make it Chino, generalplan.com. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. We've had an amazing hit. Over 100 plus people have visited, more than 100 people visited, but at least a little bit over 100 have signed up to be added to the email list to be informed on when we have public meetings, but also, importantly, as we move forward, when there's information that's going to be uploaded in regards to the feedback from the open house, but as importantly, or probably more importantly, when that public document's going to be going out and it's going to be hitting and be available up on the project website. So we had 27 comments as well. They were very good. They were scattered across the different topics, but I would say what we're going to be going through, we're going to capture several of those comments as well.
Hang on a minute.
Yes,
How
sir.
come it's not Make It Chino Valley?
Make it Chino general plan. It was getting long. I believe that's what first we were just going to say Make It Chino Valley. There was a lot of discussion over that. So just to shorten the URL, it was Make It Chino. It'd be a little bit more. There was a discussion amongst a number of people.
There is a Chino, California,
There is a Chino, California. You're correct.
so this is Chino Valley. And I think it should state Chino Valley. Because your next comment down there is Chino Valley's general plan.
Correct.
So why don't you shorten that?
Well, we don't.
I'm just saying.
Right. No.
Chino Valley should be Make It Chino Valley.
Yeah, it's a tagline. It's kind of part of it's more of a tagline. We could try to change it if you would like to change it. I'd like to. What we would have to do to do that, there's a couple things that it would impact, right? One, a lot of people already know Make It Chino general plan, so we don't want to lose the people who already know that. Two, we could always create another one that says Make It Chino Valley general plan, and it would be the front end. We could have two of them, right? And it would be able to link, I'm gonna go to my IT person who, he's really a planner, but he's my, he has two hats. It would be able to link to this, so we would have, we would be able to create that. And in order not to advertise that, but not lose the notification, public notification, and what everybody has been hearing to date. So we could hold both of them. And then ultimately, we could pull it away. We could eliminate the Make It Chino general plan. So we look to you. We could do, it's easy. We could, whatever you would like us to do. If you would like us to do that,
Is it gonna make it more confusing if you change it now? Are we gonna lose people that?
I
A
think,
little late in the game.
I think it's a little late,
They're used to it
but
this way now, I don't, you know.
I think everybody from here calls Chino Chino.
Agreed.
So, I mean, I don't know, I mean, I understand what you're saying, cause of California, but I don't know, I call it Chino, I don't call it Chino Valley, you know, so, I don't know. It's whatever the group likes.
Don't wanna confuse anybody now.
I can tell you this, when the project is done, sorry, Mayor, but
No, you're fine.
when the project is done, this website will go away, and it'll be part, the general plan will be part of your town's website. So, just want to share that part, as that may help as well. Okay, this sounds good, thank you. Part of this, part of public engagement wasn't just in person. We also had some online opportunities for those who were unable to join us at the 2 open houses that we did conduct. And so on the website, on the online website, we had the opportunity to put what's called ID Places. It's also on the website, but it's also an app. So anybody could pull it up on their phone or on their tablet, any device that would be able to connect, have service internet, and connect to the website to pull this down. What this is as we stated in the past, it's an interactive mapping exercise where you would get these iconic pins that you see on the left here, and they have different topics from transportation, infrastructure, new roads, and air quality and such. And they would take that, hit it, and pin it down on a geo-specific location, and then it would pop up, a comment box would pop up, and they could put a specific comment down. So it's one level more than just saying, hey, we have an issue here about transportation, but they had the opportunity then to go in and say, you know, this area needs major improvement, or we've had a couple accidents here at this intersection. So it's been giving us a lot of good feedback. We had over 85 different responses, and we've taken that into consideration as well as we're moving forward. And many of those you'll see throughout the presentation. We also had a questionnaire, great response, over 200. You need to know that we worked in communities very similar to rural communities your size. We have not had such a large public engagement as we've had here in a long, long time. So that's kudos to all of you.
Less than 2% or 2%?
Unfortunately, it is, but it is still.
0.007%.
That's what I mean, it's less than 2%, so.
It's very,
it
it's,
seems
yeah,
low,
right.
but
But think of it like, what I'm saying is equivalent to general plan processes in communities that are very similar in demographics as yours. Literally, they probably get about anywhere from 12 to maybe 25 people show up at their meetings, their public open house meetings, and way less in the questionnaires. So, you know, you should be proud, is what we're saying. It may look low, and it is low if you look at it in the big picture of the percentage against your population, but overall, we did get some great responses. So it is, yes, Councilwoman.
Was this mailed out? Was this
It-
form that?
It
where
was
you got
not
these
mailed out.
changes?
It was available online the whole time, and it was at the first open house
Okay.
meeting, hard copy. And then, I'm not sure, Lori, were you able to get it, was it at the counter? Yeah, I thought there was it was located at different places as well in the community. Any other questions? So let's go over, I'm going to quickly go through the open house, number one. We had a great turnout at the first open house. A little over 110 people showed up, and we had notifications that the town provided through press releases, and we did e-blasts as well as social media, and there were mailers that went over out to over 1,300 parcel residents within the community. We had a number of different stations, but most importantly, the interactive exercises is where we got a lot of the input from asset mapping, where we asked everybody, what are the most important assets within your community that you think needs to be preserved or enhanced, as well as what are some of the challenges and the opportunities for the different elements, the general plan elements, which were those 5 topics that I talked about. So when we did a little word cloud, and so with the comments that we received for what do you love about Chino Valley, and you'll see friendly people was almost right up there with rural. Very proud of your community. It was a quiet community, very family oriented. The dark skies, large lots, open space, and recreation.
Great mayor.
Great mayor.
Is that true?
Right.
What'd that cost you to get in there?
Somebody must have been broke.
Not a lot, because it was in the smaller way. I'm just kidding.
It was just a little high,
I
right?
think that was from the
there.
previous general plan.
So the larger, of course, the larger the font size or the words, the more comments we received on that one specific item. But it like reinforces your vision and the vision that they would like to see in the future as well. And so what do you want Chino Valley to be in 2040?
There's that word again.
Rural was the big one, but no apartments, improved roads. Affordable housing came up, 1 acre lots, more grocery stores. So,
Fast food.
That right there is a conflict of interest on that board right there.
you'll see as we go through what we heard from last night's open house meeting, public meeting, there's a split on some topics within the community, at least for the people who did attend the open house, and that's not abnormal, but we need to try to find that common area on where you want to go in 2040. And so the other thing is, what I like to highlight is we can't lose sight of 2040. So when we're doing a general plan, it's not about what we need to do today to improve our community. It's really all about what we need to do as far as future development is occurring and improvements to infrastructure and public services. Where do we need to invest our money? And what type of growth do we want to direct the type of growth, the character growth, for what we want the community to look like in 2040? So 20 years from now. And that's really hard for a lot of people to put their arms around. You'll see, more grocery stores that people are today. This is an issue today, right? And we usually don't go down to the level of grocery stores. It would be bundled up in what we would call commercial. And so these are all very important. We want to conserve water. We're going to take those into and translate them into the general plan and into the goals and policies for 2040. Informal discussion. So if I click and you have a question, just shout out, raise your hand. It's all good. So what we'd like to do is we're going to go through this. Okay, right. I looked at the dots. I'm like, these are not the dots that we have. So we're going to go through what we heard as through those interactive exercises that we were talking about. So as far as the strengths with the community, we heard that there's vacant land that has the opportunity for development, the right type of development, but it should be minimized as far as the strengths, right? Old Home Manor is a good area for future development. We've heard that even yesterday at the public open house, that future development and a specific type of development should be directed towards Old Home Manor. Public facilities, the library, the senior center, aquatic center, those are all great strengths of your community, and to continue to grow and build off of those. And then a great police force. So some of the challenges include your poor roads. We've been hearing that. I'm sure you've been hearing it as well. Road maintenance is, right? Road maintenance, you're not alone here either, is an issue not only in rural communities, it's an issue even in larger communities, suburban communities, as well as urban communities. And it is the cost to maintain those roads. So what the lessons have been, lessons that have been learned by many jurisdictions and is that delaying maintenance is more costly. So as soon as you have the opportunity to bring your roads up to a quality condition, it would be in everybody's best interest, any community really, to put a program together to maintain those roads, and a investment cost associated with that through capital improvements plan, of course. And so poor road maintenance, limited water to support growth. We are aware of that as well. And the water sewer master plan, limited water sewer opportunities. Community is mixed on the need for additional retail and shopping. How much? Where should it be? What kind of retail and shopping should it be? Should it be entertainment? Should it be tourism-based? Should it just be supporting just local community, commercial and such? So a little mix of what we've been hearing on that front as well, especially yesterday. So we look forward to hearing a little bit from you as well. And then there is no town center where people can gather, and a lack of gathering places for the public. Any questions? So at the first public open house, we had a visual preference survey. A visual preference survey basically is it's a photo and of a character of homes or types of homes, the density of homes, character of roads, the cross-section of roads, trails and such. So it's a visual part of an exercise where they could say, yes, we agree, we do like this, or we don't like this type of photo or visual part of these different topics. So multifamily, there was not a lot of interest in multifamily, which is probably not a new item to all of you, and there's not a lot of interest in mixed. There was a mixed interest in duplex, more so not supporting the duplexes. The recreational trails, the multi-purpose trails and paths, highest preference was on stabilized dirt or graded. They don't want to see a lot of the concrete ones, and they did prefer the multi-purpose ones where you would have maybe pedestrian as well as potential equestrian. If there's no more discussion on our first open house, we're going to move into what we heard last night at the public open house. Again, we had a great turnout. There was a little bit more than 80 people at the open house, or 90 people, excuse me, at the open house. We had a couple of these same exercise, where do you live map, which really helps, because when we see the different comments, we know where the comments are coming from those specific areas within your town. But let's focus in on the interactive activities that we did hold. Again, there were 1,300 mailers, the same notifications. I want to highlight that. I think the town did a great job of getting the word out and across the board. So the interactive activities focused on the 5 elements. They're called elements, basically topics. We call them topics, elements. The land use, the circulation, public facilities, as I talked about, economic development, parks and rec. And from what we heard during the first open house, we came up with some, what I would call preliminary conceptual goals or policy ideas, basically. Some of those ideas we threw out there that weren't necessarily what we heard, but we wanted to confirm if you all agreed or disagreed. And that helps, I think, all of us be able to shape the development of the general plan. So they were kind of teasers. We kind of knew what maybe the answer was going to be, but we really needed to confirm it. And then we had two other, what we called interactive exercises at stations. One was the map of the town, and it was a land use exercise. And we had Legos with different colors, and we asked everybody, well, in 2040, where would you like commercial to be located? Or where would you like, residential, medium density residential, or high density residential, or multifamily residential? So where would you like the town center to be located? And then we also had an exercise, same thing with the map of the town. We love this exercise. It was on circulation. There were different colors of yarn they were given, and one color was for trails and recreational trail locations where they thought was really important for trails to be located within your community, and where they thought they should be connected if there's some existing ones there. And then the other yarn was a certain length, and that basically represented $4 million worth of investment in new roads or improvement of roads. So they were asked to cut the yarn up or where they would like to locate it, or where they would like improvements or new roads and trails. So that was a very interesting exercise, and we're going to be putting up all of the photos. Everybody who provided input and did the exercise, we took a photo of individual maps, and they're going to be uploaded onto the website, and you'll be able to go and see what everybody who participated, what they did come up with. Tonight we're going to give you an overview of what we heard that you'll see across the wall there. So these are the dot exercises that we had, the 5 topics. This is where I'm going to look to the rest of our team to come in, and this is where you all become very, very active. So the first topic that we're going to talk about is land use. So at our very first meeting, we talked about what comprises a general plan, and it's comprised of basically 2 components. It's a narrative text of goals and policies that are going to provide direction for future development in the town for up to 2040. And the second one is your FLUME, your future land use map, which is going to help guide development, the type of land uses, the type of development, right? So, and your zoning map and ordinance has to be in compliance with your future land use map. So this is a very important component. Land use is a very important component. What we have up here, and I know you've seen it 100 times, 100 billion times probably, but this is your current future land use plan that's in your general plan today. You'll see that this is medium density. You don't have a low density residential category, which we thought was very odd. And you start off with this golden yellow color, which is medium density.
I kept my mouth shut.
Okay.
So it's one
Their idea
medium.
of low density is 12,000 acres.
We have lots of low density.
But it's not on your future land use map. So what your
Currently,
current
we
your,
have lots
your
of low density.
currently you have lots, right? So what your current general plan is saying is that by this is 2014, but by basically 2024, 25, today and in the next couple years, this is what, at the time, the people of Chino Valley thought they would like to see the community be, right? Even if this is currently all low density, they were looking for more development or higher density development as it continued to develop. They were looking at more of a strip commercial along 89. The pink is all future, like future growth. First, they would like to see this area grow, and then they were waiting for this in 20, 40, 50 build-out years, right? And then you'll see the Old Home Manor area that's in blue, and they identified that as your employment core for office, incubators, what else do they have up here? Public services, educational institutions and such. So this is what we have to develop in this general plan. And to get here, we take everybody's input, the best we can, and all of your input, and we help guide what your future land use map's going to be. A couple other things we want to talk about is there are certain standards, national standards, that there are ranges, right, for different populations of communities. So obviously we're going to be looking at the rural community standards. But a community has to have a certain percentage of different land uses to be sustainable. And they have to look at what you probably heard me say this earlier at some of our other meetings, that mix of, where's your revenue going to come from in order to make sure you can maintain those roads, first improve the roads, maintain them in good condition, build new roads to support, future development. That's just an example, and still be able to provide the other public services that you two provide. Remember the strengths of the community, the aquatic center, the, is there an aquatic center? Yeah, okay, right. For a second there, I'm like, there's the library and such. So those take money, right? So we need to continue to make sure where's our revenue coming from, and how are we going to make sure that you can afford that, and provide the same quality, if not better quality, of public services as you move forward. So that mix of land is really important. Oh, you have it, good. Okay, I'm going to go over here. Go ahead.
I kind of wanted to build on to what Celeste was talking about with the 2014 future land use plan. And as she said, when 2014, when that plan went forward and was approved, the community agreed that that's the land use solution they wanted to see in the future. So any decisions that were made regarding zoning and development were required to align with that plan, even if that's not what's in place today. So if we do have large expanses of 1 acre, 10 acre, 20 acre, 100 acre land for residential development, in 2014, the community's vision that was approved said that we want to see a little bit more density. We want to see that commercial strip down 89. We want to see Old Home Manor be developed for an employment purpose. All those different things. And since this is a dialogue and not just us talking to you, we're hearing that that's probably not the same preference from the community members this time around as it was last time. So I think it'd be good to hear from the group about that land use plan versus what you believe the land use plan in 2040 should be, just in generalities.
Anybody want to take a shot?
Can I ask a qualifying question?
Absolutely.
So, you say you hear from the people.
Yes.
I heard 100 people at the first meeting and maybe 90.
Mm-hmm.
And my hunch is, of the 90, at least half of those were represented in the first 100.
I would assume that, in fact, that's going to be an exercise we were going to do, is look at the sign-in sheets from the first and the second
Okay.
event. We did it last night, so we didn't have a lot of time today to
So-
prep.
My question is, and I'm not trying to discredit the validity of any of these findings whatsoever, but
Sure.
are we actually getting a real legitimate community snapshot when it's really just the squeaky wheels that we're hearing?
And that's a great point, because that is the hardest thing to distill through this whole process when nobody gets excited about planning until a development comes in and they're gonna build something in their backyard, and then they get excited about it. So
No.
getting people excited about things, yeah, I know, you've never had that experience, sure. But getting people excited about or interested in to contribute to planning when it's so far into the future, 20 years into the future, 15 years into the future, 10 years, it's really hard to get people to respond to that. So getting 100 people to show up and provide comment, getting 85 people on the website to sign up, or 100 people for emails. We went out to the community, had the stakeholder engagement as well. So we're going out to those identified groups of various interests, from open space, water, the equestrian community, the business community, chamber. We talked with the city staff to all these different individuals to hear from as wide of a cross-section as we can, knowing that not everybody's going to show up at these community meetings. That's also why we do the online website and all those different things. We just try to do what we can to get it. That's largely what we have to rely upon. But they're not the final say. They are at the vote, but right now they're not. We're still in the discovery phase.
No,
So-
I
Yeah.
understand that.
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure that whatever you're formulating and presenting,
Mhm.
from what other than the 185 people you spoke to.
Yeah, yeah.
Your other contact sources, were the findings there consistent with 185?
For the most part.
Yes, I'd say that's true.
Okay, because what's gonna happen is, let's say we heard the squeaky wheels and we all go, yep, okay, this is the way we want.
Right.
But that only represented a really small
Yeah.
portion of our
Right.
community. And now we have the other 85% that are really upset with us because we went in a plan that is completely contrary to what the masses wanted.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I just wanted to, I'm glad you brought that up, because that is the hardest part. But there's 3 other groups that are providing input, right? We also had stakeholder interviews, so we got a lot of input from different stakeholders, and we presented that earlier. But, so there is a steering committee that is representative, and I believe it was appointed by council. Am I correct? Yep. So that's good. We've been working with them, and we have a meeting with them tomorrow night. So tomorrow night's going to be a very important night as well. So we're looking to them to be the technical, committee to provide direction. And then all of you are elected and appointed officials. And you're here representing all of your constituents. So all, and the word is all, right? So we have to, and they are inclusive of all the people who've been part of the public open houses and the input that we've received to date. So we have to be respectful of everybody. And so it starts with the public. We get the public information. We're going to obtain info from the steering committee. We're obtaining information from all of you as elected appointed officials. And then we're going to do our best as subject matter experts to bring our planning expertise to your community and give you guidance on what we believe would be a good mix for you and represent that vision that you all put together at the beginning that I read earlier as we develop this map. So what we like to, somebody have a question? Oh, I'm so sorry, Mayor.
I did, but I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, that's,
Just for clarity, I can't really read what the questions are up there.
yeah,
Okay.
we're gonna walk through every single one of
Okay,
those
good.
because we need your guidance,
Okay.
so.
I have a question. Are you
Yes.
doing any kind of an age configuration with these things? Because we're looking at a community that the average age is in the low 50s, and most of us by 2040 are gonna be underneath, not above.
Or sooner.
We have 3 cells.
So if you don't define by age group, like, okay, all the 20 to 30s want this, and the 30 to 40s want this, and the rest of us are gonna be dead and gone, we don't care.
We'll be out on 2 cells.
And I support that because the younger group don't mind driving to town. They don't want some more stores here. But the older group wants that here, so it's like,
Where'd you go?
It's a mix and it's a balance. We did do a demographic analysis, and we had a whole bunch of boards on that as well. You have a very maturing community today, but there's some.
That was a real nice way to say it.
Thank you.
Maturing, not a bunch of old folks.
Just
We're
maturing.
maturing.
I'm right there with you, so I'm finding some new words to use. Your retirement community, right? So, will it evolve? It may. It may stay the same, but those are all things that you should be thinking about, and I'm really glad you brought it up. And we try to bring in some of those things to start thinking about. Do you want your children to come? And for the people who have children, we do have some young participants, so that's good. And they've been vocal, which is very good. But it's that mix. It really needs to be a good mix of, and it could be the percentage could be much lower in, say, affordable, duplexes, if that's what your definition of multifamily is, or maybe, small apartments of maybe 6 to 8 per acre. And in certain areas, maybe it's going to be at the Old Home Manor. But that's what we need to find out from all of you is where would you like that to be located, right? And what don't you like about this map?
I think those were definitely different times, 2014. So coming off
Right.
very hard economic times, so revenue was way down. So maybe let's get higher density to increase revenue. The roads weren't as bad. There wasn't as much traffic.
You hit it.
There was different concerns. There was more,
Yes.
water wasn't as big as concern. So all those things have changed since 2014. So
Correct.
And gonna change again by 2040.
yeah.
They will.
Drastically, probably.
That's one thing that is constant, and it's
But some of them
change,
are going to change
right?
horribly in the wrong direction.
So why don't I quickly kind of go through these, because we really don't want to lose sight of some of these. I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm going to turn my back to you while I'm reading these, because even though I'm closer, I still have trouble reading it. So I even said, I'm like, should put one on a board or a PowerPoint slide. Okay. Future commercial uses should be located throughout the community in nodes at major intersections, major street intersections. The majority of people said, no, we don't want to see a commercial at major intersections, such as where this purple is here. Yeah. So that was interesting, right?
Yeah, and what that means specifically is not that, no commercial at major intersections. It just means that that should not be the predominant pattern, that
Right.
when you have two major intersection of major roads,
That
They don't
sort
wanna
of
see that
goes
covered
against
with-
good business, though.
part of the
Little bit.
conversation.
Part of the conversation. So yes, that was good. Only along 89, State Route 89. So more of what you see in your 2014 future land use map. You see it was a little bit split there, right? And put commercial at Old Home Manor. And we had a good majority that said
Now,
that's
that's not
where.
inclusive, right? That's saying, put some out there, but not only there, right?
Correct,
Okay.
correct,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, the strategy with
So,
this,
thank you for bringing that up.
the strategy with this is to develop those concepts of policies and goals. And more, and all three could be applicable. If people said resoundingly agree on all those, then the plan would reflect that in the way the goals and policies were structured.
Future commercial and industrial development should be screened, buffered, or transitioned to protect residential areas for compatibility. These were 100%. These are great. Consider designs for new buildings that reflect the community's rural character. So we're going to move on. Chino Valley needs, and you'll see the majority of what we're going to be talking about disagreed with the following that we're going to be talking about. Small lot, less than 1 acre, smaller lot, single-family homes. They did not, the majority did not agree that there should be large retail developments. And they felt as though a town center with businesses and public gathering spaces that includes a new town hall was not necessary for 2040. So,
Wow.
Wait a minute, doesn't
That's-
that contradict a previous thing? Okay.
yes, that's why we're here tonight. We need some guidance from all of you.
So, yeah, I'm gonna just stick my neck out here a bit.
Do it.
In the zoning meetings, we constantly hear, and I've harped on this a lot, new grocery store, fix the roads, stuff like that, and then no on anything that allows a tax base to do that with.
I know.
So this community is conflicted. They want their cake and eat it too. And so maybe tonight we can set the pace to do what's best for the community as a whole, as opposed to what certain segments of the community would like to see happen. And you had spoken earlier about an interesting thing that I'd like more information on, that there are certain percentages that a community has to have of different types of businesses and sections of the town so that will thrive and survive. That would be an interesting thing to look at.
We'll be happy to provide
Because
that.
I think
We'll put
we're-
it up on the website.
I think we're backwards on a lot of that.
Commissioner, I want to thank you for bringing forward that comment, because we were going to bring that forward as we were moving on into some of the other land uses. They go hand in hand, and it is conflicting right now. And so we need to somehow address that.
Is that something that's atypical to Chino, or do you see this routinely?
I don't see it that routinely.
Okay.
So your
It's a
next-
little bit more, we see it more in rural communities, and mainly because they're more retirement, and they're on discretionary incomes, and, you know, there's a number of different reasons.
Yeah.
Yes,
Your
sir.
very next statement, make more or more medical offices and services, overwhelmingly the answer is yes.
Right.
But just don't put them in Chino.
And
Put them
don't build
somewhere where they
build the
don't,
houses to allow them
where
to
they
live.
don't affect traffic, they don't
Right.
affect my view. I mean, it makes no sense.
Right, and as we all age, one of the most important components is those medical services, right? They're as important, I'm gonna say these days, as schools, as education for the younger families.
Mhm.
And I would agree. I think that speaks to the same thing. There's no way someone's going to come open a new doctor's office here if there's not enough people to support it. I
Right.
mean, if we don't get any more people or households here, there won't be more services here. It's
That's
just a
correct.
fact.
It's,
Yeah.
you have to have so much money to stay in business, any business. And if you can't create enough revenue to keep the doors open, then your business is gonna go away. And that is the
Right.
decision that this town is facing.
There's a reason why there's not another grocery store here. They base it all on rooftops, population. So,
There is a large constituency that live here, though, that have lived here for a long time, way longer than I have, that have always lived under these conditions and love these conditions.
Correct.
And then a ton of new people have moved in, surveyed the area,
mhm.
and moved here for those reasons.
Right,
Not to have more.
right, and that,
So this squeaky wheel on the grocery store and all that, that's also a micro, I think that's a micro
group,
group
Yes.
screaming for a new grocery store. I could care less about a new grocery store, but they're gonna yell the loudest.
they are.
Well, that's
Small
what-
groups are,
You make a good point.
I moved here knowing I have to drive to Prescott if I can't find what I want here. It
And,
doesn't bother me in the least.
and so what that
In fact, I
does,
like the fact that I have to do that.
what that
If that's
does
okay too,
is, I see that, and to a degree, I agree with that. I like my nice little quiet spot. But we have to be able to fix the roads and take care of our business here to a certain degree, and that means something has to develop and something has to expand.
right, so is Old Home Manor the location for the future development of that mixed use? I'm going to call it mixed use, but I'm not saying mixed use like the urban area, right? But to address some of the affordable housing with multifamily, some of the commercial, so you'll be able to have some revenue, still mixed with single family and employment opportunities, medical offices and such. But yet, this is the area that you're celebrating and maintaining that rural community of why you all came here. So you actually are in way better position than a lot of rural communities because they don't have a location like you do. That's Old Home Manor that you own. That you could really guide public-private partnerships on the type of land uses and development you would like to see here. You know, maybe this is the opportunity for entertainment. We were talking about entertainment, bringing people in who go to Prescott, right? Get their money and then they could go home again or go back to Prescott. But that's called, in economic terms, where you're leveraging other people's communities' money, right?
Free money.
So you have the rooftops, but it's for a different type of commercial. But also, if you have a more denser community here that you focus on future, that type of development, you will have another grocery store. You may not have to go to Prescott. You just need to improve the roadway to Old Manor Home. So that's something to think about as we continue. You want to take that side? Because I can't read that side.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so next we framed it out as Chino Valley's residential areas are, the first one says predominantly rural properties greater than 1 acre. That confirmed what we've been hearing over and over, so we have kind of expected. The next one, though, was to kind of explore the temperature in the community when it came to different types of residential. So the next two reflect that, but in certain conditions, such as half-acre and smaller lots being allowed only within a half-mile of commercial, office, and industrial zoning. On that statement, the community said, no thanks. That's not what we want to have.
I wonder if they read that
But I
right.
think the
Yeah, the
translation,
question is
I think the
kinda-
translation on that is they don't want half acre or
Yeah, that's what I was
lots.
thinking. I don't think it has to
So
do
if-
anything with the
if-
commercial part.
Yeah,
or
if you're
just-
gonna have smaller lots, I think they would agree that it needs to be, no, that it needs to be closer to
Yeah.
commercial.
Yeah.
Some
I
of the
really
towns
truly
are-
believe that, but they were just so
They just saw
strongly
half
against.
acre
it.
last
Half
boom.
acre and said no.
Because
With
look
the
at what
nose
you
to
have
it.
up there above it, you know, so they just, I mean, we can't prove that right now, but that's my
No.
assumption.
And that could be.
My assumption too, that I think they're just so against any small lots, that it's a no answer, no matter where it is. But
Yeah.
if you had to have it, it should be close to
So,
commercial.
so that's why I wanted to talk about the last one, because it's a little confusing now. A mix of large and small lots, including limited multifamily near commercial areas. And it was split. Little lean to yes. So the reason why these are put up here, though, is that oftentimes people who work at those commercial service working establishments, if you want them to live in your community, spend money in your community, be part of the community, are these appropriate areas for them? Because they're not going to be spread amongst the large 1 acre lots, but they'll be clustered in where the more intense development is. So we wanted to ask that question of the community. Is that a compromise, or is that something that can be supported? And perhaps the phrasing here misguided, but here it seems like there might be some acceptance of a mixed solution, but depending on where it's located.
Yeah, right in the commercial district and not near my house.
Okay?
Right, yes.
And again, I think with it, when you say a mixed lot, we hear that in P and Z meetings all the time, is that they want bigger lots, medium lots, smaller lots. They don't want to mix.
Transitional.
Transition, that's.
And
Yeah,
who's-
that might be it.
And who's the they? The they, the community? Or they?
The people that show up at P and Z
Okay.
meetings, when somebody tries to make a smaller lot, they say, well, no, we don't want small lots here because everything else is big.
Got it.
So they're not wanting a mix. So I think that's why you're getting some more disagreement. They're not reading the whole
Okay.
sentence.
And
They're just saying
understanding.
they
Yeah,
don't
so they're
want
looking
mix.
at it as, like you just said, a transition from small lots to
I
medium
don't
to
think
large.
the question, the information you were trying to gather from the last question was asked in a way you're gonna get what you wanted.
Right, I agree with you on that.
Okay.
After the dialogue here. I'm gonna, in the interest of time, I'm gonna speed up just a
Okay.
little bit. So these are some of the other, so at each of these topics, with the dots, we had another, you'll see it up there, another board that they had the opportunity just to put comments down. free, whatever they want to state about that specific topic. So under land use, you see, keep all city limits.
1 acre.
Thank you. Okay. Some of the stuff was a little, renewable energy, solar, responsible growth, impact fees, let the developers pay for future development, for the roads and such.
So, could you read the third sentence up from the bottom, please?
Subdivision developers must be financially responsible for all road repair costs for the wear and tear on existing roads.
So, what that means is, we're not responsible for driving over the roads we drive over every day. Only somebody who comes here later is responsible for maintaining the roads that we have built with the limited money that we have, and they must maintain them, we get a free ride.
That's what that one comment does say.
And there's no way to actually make that happen.
Can you,
No.
I was gonna say, can you make that happen?
That would be, okay.
Move on.
Move on.
Yep.
So these really are just trends and summaries of what we just went through. So you heard, about half agree to the commercial
That's not
to be located along State Route 89. So we're gonna go ahead and have this sent to you, this PowerPoint. We're gonna put it up on the website as well. So we're gonna jump past this one. And this actually summarizes some of those comments that you couldn't read that we just read for you on the other one.
more than 1 acre lots.
This one,
That's backwards. That first sentence up there doesn't track with anything I've ever
I
heard.
probably wrote it
No,
wrong.
yeah, it was supposed to say, it was inadvertently wrote to be more than.
Right.
Yeah, the notion ought to have been there. It was 1 acre or
There,
greater.
you almost got us lynched there, buddy.
we're not trying.
Yeah,
A typo.
yeah.
Okay,
I'll go through this really quickly.
okay, that sounds good. Circulation.
This is circulation, so this is asking about how the community would like to get around the community in the future, what could be implemented to improve things or enhance services. We wanted to ask 3 things, and you could see that they all said no. But
Not all.
not strongly, but you're right, not all. Things that could help with public safety or to separate people from traffic, such as requiring sidewalks when collector or arterial streets, larger streets are built, or providing soft paths for horses alongside those same roads so that the vehicle traffic and the slower traffic's not interacting, or requiring bicycle lanes on collectors and arterials. So all focused on how do we make this more safe for people to travel by other methods than vehicle. And the community is not very supportive of requiring that. They may be supportive of making those optional or considering it or studying it, but the question we put in front of them was, is this something that in 2040 Chino Valley has for their typical streets?
So a couple things to think about is bicycle lanes and sidewalks and trails, they cost money.
Yep.
So in a rural community, it's not that maybe you don't want them everywhere, right? There may be some specific areas that you would like to target for each one of those. So that would be what we would like to hear from all of you. Unless you do want, which we haven't, bicycle lanes on all the collector and arterial roadways.
And I think as it sits now, if developments go in, they are required to sidewalk new developments, so.
For master plan community developments, yeah,
That's the problem.
other subdivisions,
Any
big,
subdivision.
yes.
And John brought up the problem of putting in sidewalks or trails or whatever along our roads now. We don't have we need wider, more dedication of property, and that could be very.
Yeah, your right of way limits you as well.
Yeah.
And that would be a lot of money for acquisition. Yes, Councilwoman?
Just, so we're looking forward to 2040, which is kind of unfathomable to me. So would this be for new roads?
Yes.
Okay,
That
so
was the intent.
that definition, or that was not quite clear, I don't believe. So
Good.
I think if it was new roads, if it said for all new roads, maybe everyone would be more supportive of it. Instead
Okay.
of just thinking of the roads that they travel, there's no room for a bike lane or a
Yeah, but
horse
it's-
path.
It's odd though, because like Prescott Valley, you're hearing them, they're advocating pushing bike lanes and all that and having connectors, regional connectors. Well, we're part of that regional connector, so at
Right.
some point, we have to think, and by 2040, we should have bike lanes that go, allow riders to go between here and Prescott without having to be on the freeway.
Right. And where should that be, right? Where should it be located? And you do support, your community supports recreational outdoor activities, of which one of them is biking, is what we've heard.
So continuing on with like other safety-related concerns, make streets safer by installing and requiring more streetlights, illuminating things. And it was a resounding no. Defining truck routes, very strongly yes. Limiting the number of driveways on busy streets, and that trended to the no, we don't want to do that. This in particular does help with traffic, helps with congestion, helps with safety and reducing collisions.
We will highly recommend that one of your implementation, or your policy and implementation strategy should be to develop an access management plan. An access management plan basically guides where driveways, or driveways to commercial, when we say driveways, it's not just residential, where they should be located, how far they should be located for safety purposes, and how different, if it's a commercial area, how they should be interconnected, thank you. So in some communities, every commercial entity does not connect to the next commercial entity. So every car who wants to go from, say, I'm just gonna throw out some stuff, the hotel Days Inn to maybe you have a McDonald's next door, they have to go outside and then they have to drive in.
That's just stupid.
So it is, so that access management plan is very, very, very valuable for communities.
Driveways to commercial is an ADOT thing, not ours.
Off of 89.
Oh, off of 89,
Off of
and I
89.
use Days Inn, but, correct, but on the roadways that you have responsibility for.
And
And
even
I
what
guarantee
she
you,
says,
ADOT has an access management.
Interconnecting the lots,
Those
though.
driveways are already assigned and used.
Correct, but not interconnecting the lots. So if something builds next to Days Inn, Chino could require that lot is interconnected
Well,
with
we'd like
Days
to see
Inn lot.
double access, we don't want
And then
anything
that
with
doesn't-
single access,
that
ingress and
breaks
egress,
people.
because then you're killing people.
It's really great to hear you say that, because that's
Right.
good feedback, because you're saying, I'd like to see that, 2040, I want to see interconnectedness. So that's a policy and goal we can incorporate.
Right, and even though ADOT has authority over 89, State Route 89, we could provide a policy and a recommendation in your implementation to coordinate and advocate with ADOT to require an access management plan along 89.
Yeah.
I know.
I was like, do you know who you're talking about?
20 more years, we're hoping there's change, but
ADOT's a four-letter word.
okay.
And so the last one kind of goes hand in hand with a lot of this other stuff, but developing a transportation master plan and street standards, that's, yes, the community would love to see that happen, and that can help a lot with all of this. Beautifying landscape SR 89, and again, if you can work with ADOT, and they have with some communities, there's ways that you can improve that front door to the community through a cohesive, rural-focused design. Lastly, street priorities to enhance or expand streets to support economic development, a little bit more mixed, but largely there are certain streets that probably need to be examined for that, and the transportation master plan will help you identify that in concert with what we do in this comprehensive plan update, or general plan update.
Okay, I want to summarize. I just want to get some feedback here. So what he just talked about, develop a master plan, beautify and landscape 89, expand streets to support economic development. Would you all agree with those, in general, with those three?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm asking that so we have the feedback and we could move on, or we could, as we develop. If we go up into the make streets safer, no on this. What I heard is we don't support an abundance of streetlights, or do we support an
No
abundance?
streetlights.
No streetlights for the dark
We're
skies.
dark and sky.
So, and that's fine, but there are streetlights that with certain types of illums and light bulbs that support dark skies. And Flagstaff is a great example, and they have 2 observatories in their backyard. And they have an amazing dark sky lighting ordinance. So that is something that we would like to throw out for consideration for you to think about, to adopt. For any, you will have some streetlights, right? Possibly, or if not, maybe you, even for residential and commercial businesses, you may be interested. We would highly recommend having it for commercial and residential at a minimum to maintain that dark sky. So, but we could put it in the general plan to say explore the feasibility of developing.
So if we're
some things to
looking
think about.
20 years down the road, the streetlights may become more viable, technology improves. But I agree with not having a bunch of them. I mean, where I live, the marijuana facility on a foggy night or a snow light, it's like a UFO's landing in there
You live too
somewhere.
close to that thing, obviously.
But, and nothing against them, it's just a result of what they do. I understand why people don't want the streetlights.
We have 2 special taxing districts now that cover streetlights, right?
Correct.
Bright Star and Highlands Ranch, is that it?
Mhm.
I don't think we should throw that out.
Yeah, and that could very well be something that's addressed to the transportation master plan for street standards, to say that streetlights are only necessary under these conditions, and they should be executed in this way, so that you don't end up with them everywhere where you don't intend it.
Yeah, we have a parking lot
That might be
lights.
for like
Yeah, I know.
major intersections, so
But
people
if you
can
have
be
the
seen and
standards.
crossed.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
For the safety again, which I think would be
Well,
really.
we definitely should have a standard, and I don't think we should totally nix the idea of streetlights, so there's a compromise available there that.
So
we
put a
can
street
work with.
lighting plan together. A lot of communities do that as well. And they have different programs on how they would phase it in where appropriate. So before we leave off of this slide for circulation, I want to talk about horse equestrian paths as well as sidewalks and bicycles. Kind of a mix, but we'd like to hear from you what you would like to see in 2040.
I think sidewalks are very important around schools. 'Cause a lot of kids are riding their bikes and walking down the edge of the road, and Martinage was in, like 2 North, for example, both ways, east and west, and 1 east in front of the Territorial, and 1 west in front of the other one. I think, and then we've got the right of way there on 1 west, in front of Del Rio and Heritage. Not Heritage, is it Heritage? Yeah, Heritage. You know, I think there should be sidewalks.
Okay, that's good. Good input.
I think it's good on the major arterial roads, 1 east and west. You see a lot of people walking, and they wanna walk, but it's hard for them to walk because it's a ditch and there's not much room there, you know, so I think our community's lifestyle is gonna be depending on a lot of recreation. You know, you don't recreate, you get.
Problem with those 2 arterials there is the right-of-way problems, so.
Yep.
There's no room, so.
Or
But I would
every
like
other
to see
house
it.
is giving you the dedication, so we have a checkerboard.
So
you
we
got
gotta
the
kick
loans,
everybody
but
off
the
those
next.
2 roads and
I-
start over again.
I want to bring up Old Home Manor. So don't get, you can have policies that are geographic in nature. So in this part of the community, we would like sidewalks on arterial roadways, collectors and such. And maybe in our existing, I'm gonna use mature again, more mature town, you know, this is the type of trails or pedestrian connections we would like to see where possible. And, you know, we could write the policy like that as well, is where it's possible with, if land is available. And then what would you like to see at Old Home Manor as well? We're gonna, if you look to have this more dense community, mixed-use community, you know, sidewalks may be appropriate in that type of development setting. So we can mix and match those policies and really guide to make sure we maintain rural character as well as some new growth. What about equestrian horse paths?
20 years from now, I doubt, you guys think that there's gonna be people? When I came to Chino in '82, there was horses and people everywhere, and me being one of them. And now you might see one every month, maybe?
It's too dangerous to ride around the place.
Yeah.
It's just too dangerous.
That
know.
path on the south side of Road 3 North is used all the time.
Yeah.
People walking dogs, horses, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, but anymore, I mean, it's just tapered off so bad, so
They
in
just
20
drive
years,
around,
is
even
that
the
gonna?
senior center going towards the schools, that path is not maintained.
So what it's saying though is provide soft paths for horses along collector and arterial streets, not that we don't want horse paths.
Correct.
I mean, we run it, again, same thing as sidewalk, we run into the fact that there's only so much room.
Yeah, it's finding
so
the
many
land,
people.
it's finding the land to do it with.
Right. So okay. Great dialogue, and here's another thing, item to think about. So, do you want to preserve those equestrian trails that are currently still outside of even the rural built area near the arterials and collectors that horses still ride, people still ride on? Is that something that you want to preserve as part of
I think
your-
they should be preserved, if possible.
And that's that's a great, we could develop a policy for that.
The people want to stay rural. If you go away with a horse path, you're going away from rural.
Right.
One more time, sir, I'm sorry.
If you take away the horse paths, you're going away from rural, and the people
You are
want to stay
correct.
rural.
You're correct. So we just needed to hear and
Yeah.
confirm that that's what you would like to see.
And what I was gonna do is connect a couple of comments I heard was, one, it's just too busy to ride horses, and people don't ride horses anymore. But where the facilities are, they're heavily used, it sounds like.
Welcome to Chino Valley, buddy.
Yep, so, looking forward in your vision,
So.
is
if-
that
if
something
we're
you wanna
talking
encourage
about-
where you can?
If we're talking about new roads, then the answer is if the opportunity is there because there's nothing there now, why not? The question is kinda, never mind. Sorry.
I look at Norco, California, they tried to maintain this, and they kept their trails in place, and then there was increased accidents, and they have nothing but problems over there. So they still so-called the equestrian community, and some of those dirt trails are still there, but they're not being used really like they were. Even 10 years ago, they're not being used at the same rate.
Well, 20 years from now, I believe that the horse community, which I have a horse myself, will maybe not be quite as active, but.
Those can all be turned into bike trails too.
Well, that's exactly where I was headed. Can they both not be multi-purpose things where they're a bike trail and a horse path at the same time? I know the bike riders will get a little yuck out of it every once in a while, but that's okay.
They can buddy hop it.
I think that's a great statement. Put that in. So these are some of the other comments we heard. We have 40 minutes.
Can you read all those with the handwriting? It's a little tough.
Summarizes it, Celeste.
Did it quit working?
Is yours not working?
It wasn't working. Is it on now? No.
There you go.
Yeah, I think I was holding it and I pressed the button, so I apologize. Can you hear me now? Excellent, thank you.
The next slide probably.
Okay,
says-
yeah, let's,
Oh, I don't like that.
I'm gonna, in the interest of time, even though we made these, we're gonna jump past these. This is really what, the summary of what's on those dots.
And there's,
Okay. Yeah, same as the other one. Let's talk a little bit about parks and recreation and natural resources.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so this was really focused on parks, recreation, natural resources, water, open spaces, things like that. So the first one was Chino Valley could improve recreational programming to benefit all ages and interests. Resoundingly yes. Aquatic center hours and activities could be improved. resoundingly yes. Enhance existing parks with additional amenities and beautification. Agreed. People really like the recreation and open space opportunities out here, and they'd love to see them continued to be improved. And I don't want you to misconstrue the second one about the aquatic center hours and activities to be improved, meaning it's not good now. It means this is just a celebrated part of the community that they would love to see be continued to be a centerpiece. Chino Valley should prioritize preserving the open space to maintain that rural character and natural habitats. They should prioritize developing a regional recreation destination that preserves access to the Verde River and the natural environment. Developing neighborhood parks within 10 minutes, a 10-minute walking radius of all residents. So new development comes in, within 10-minute walk, there should be a neighborhood park.
It's a half mile.
Recreational tourism opportunities in the form of equestrian, angling, and hiking. Again, strong support. And then also, this kind of goes hand in hand with some of these others, as preserving aquifer headlands for environmental and recreational purposes. So the community is very strongly united on that open space, natural environment, rural character, and recreation.
So in the interest of time, would the majority of you, do you agree with what the majority of the public agreed with here?
Sure.
Any other dialogue or discussion?
I
Yes, sir.
think it's unrealistic to expect a park within a 10-minute walk, because that's only half a mile.
Yeah, it is.
No, the average,
The average,
the
yeah.
average pace, the average pace is 3 miles an hour, and I'm a little faster than that.
Could that, that could be,
For new
that-
development, they
yeah.
all have green belts in them usually, so.
You said she said the new developments?
Yeah, the
I agree
new
with
developments have green belts and,
Yeah.
For water retention, if nothing else.
Mhm.
A lot of that stuff is what we're already doing. I think that's where my disconnect is. I'm kind of like, well, I'm glad the community supports what we're already doing.
which is a good sign.
Right.
But we want to continue to enforce it, or not enforce it, reinforce it in the general plan for 2040. Some of the comments on the, I call it a whiteboard on the side for circulation, had nothing to do with circulation on this one actually, but RV parks, yeah, that, so no solar or wind farms. New sectors should be targeted.
Should be what?
Targeted, I guess, for recreation.
What's the top one say about solar? Just says solar?
It just says solar.
And the bottom says no solar?
Medical center. See, it's a mix. This was a mix of a white, all good. We're gonna take them and put them in the right topic.
I like the word attainable housing for workforce, not affordable, but attainable.
Hey, good point.
Which one?
Interesting word, right?
What's the fourth line up from the bottom?
No solar or?
No, down one,
No
down,
sectors.
down,
Oh, indoor sports court?
that one. New
Court?
something.
No
sectors should be
New
targeted.
sectors should be targeted, is what it
For
says.
what?
I have no idea what that means.
We're gonna assume recreation since it's under Parks
Oh,
and Recreation.
Pickleball?
Oh, it is?
Oh, that's I'm being facetious, but.
Oh,
there's-
okay.
And then the next one down too,
Attainable housing for workforce.
okay.
Yeah.
That's a good thought, and balance found within affordable and attractability.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's gonna happen.
We all would like that, not just the workforce. Although,
Right.
wait a minute, I am the workforce.
Right. Okay, any other discussions on Parks and Recreation? Nope, okay. We're gonna go past these. Public facilities. You've been going really well, or?
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to do it. So this is the one where we kind of tie it all together. So a lot of the other slides don't really have you, ideally, the community wouldn't consider cost when they're talking about their vision. They would think about the ideal for what they would like to see the community be, to get a really good understanding of the vision and how it gets implemented. But then eventually reality hits. And this one is saying, in light, basically, of all this information, what should the town do to support the vision for the future? And it could be any number of different things.
Before you start reading, I just want to highlight the majority of the public agreed on almost all of them, except for this one line here. So as he goes through
Study the
and
feasibility
reads
of a
them, I
property
want you to take that into consideration.
I'm surprised you got a couple in the motion.
Yeah, I know. So the first one is, this is stuff that the city could do in terms of providing services and facilities to the public. The first one was developing water and wastewater and stormwater master plans. Resoundingly agree that the town should be pursuing that. Developer update, promote broadband and fiber optic improvements for residents.
That's kind of high in the disagree, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a good split there.
Cause on Facebook, everybody's asking, what's a better provider, cause this one's not working,
Mhm.
so.
So even though there's a split, I think that there is a lean.
We didn't know if it was because economic development or
economic
economic
growth is in
growth was part of that statement. So maybe we were curious as well, because we heard we need better service.
The next one, Celeste talked about a bit, was the inventory and assessment of all the facilities, infrastructure, streets, roads, assets, and then prioritize them for maintenance and replacement. So doing that asset management and inventory plan. That helps tremendously with making sure you're putting the money in the right places at the right time for those assets.
The life cycle of your facilities and.
Develop, fund, and regularly update a capital improvement program, which is going to be informed from that. And that's also something that the community strongly supports. But that does cost money.
How are we supposed to fund it?
So,
Without tax.
yeah, and we knew where the answer was going to be. But we wanted to ask it because in light of all this, how does the community feel about balancing, or can they balance it? And just studying the feasibility of a property tax is something the town should not do. It's not supported. So, and that's, I mean, it's an attractive element to living in Chino Valley, is that you don't have property tax, but it comes with
I would support that.
trade-offs. Yeah,
Well, but they also want us to lower the sales tax.
correct, right.
So
those are the
That's where,
trade-offs. I mean,
and that's as elected officials, that's where you have to be the fiscal leaders. You have to be, if you want a fiscally sound community as well. So that's where you have to make those hard decisions. And at the same time, we're going to do our very best to educate the community on why it's important. So if you don't want property tax, where are you going to get the revenue to maintain a fiscally sound town?
So for the next three, I'll kind of lump them together. This community is very supportive of. The first one is establishing public and private partnerships. Those might be opportunities to share the cost of operation and construction of recreational facilities, schools, Old Home Manor, various things. Another way to save some money or to be more cost effective with the money you have is partnering and cost sharing with other agencies such as Yavapai County. That could be, road maintenance agreements, utilizing,
Give us some cash there, Craig.
Even if, it's also an opportunity to kind of keep those conversations going and see where each other can help with those agreements. Study and implement impact fees for new construction, and I know that the impact fee law changed and it made it a lot different for communities to implement that and manage that. However, for new development, that could be something that helps to provide additional new services and facilities for the new development.
Could you give a brief discussion on just how impact fees are developed?
Sure. So
Because it takes a lot.
Yeah, impact fees are multi-step. But go ahead.
1 second.
Let's do that question really quick.
It's more of a statement, is that I'm very happy that the community is in support of everything we're already doing.
Good.
That needs to be in your wordage.
Somehow, yeah, if they don't think
Oh, yeah,
that we're
great
already
idea.
doing it, it's a
Continue and-
disconnect.
We'll
Yeah.
put that in
Yeah, we
the,
do
in the
that.
general plan.
So for the impact fee program, the state had a change to the law, I believe in 2014, where there used to be a lot more flexibility on how the money could be accumulated and then spent in the community. Now it's become very regimented and programmed, and you have to develop an infrastructure improvement program that identifies specific improvements in certain categories, be it recreation, water, wastewater infrastructure, streets, any number of things. But you can identify all these projects that are of services or locations, facilities, equipment that's necessary to serve the new development that comes in. So it can only be assessed against new development to pay for things that are required to support that new development. and you gotta keep the books.
Yeah.
And you gotta do it in a certain window.
And you gotta
now.
do it within a certain period of time, and there's a lot of things that come along with it. However, if done precisely and carefully, there are ways to fund certain projects that would be of a benefit to the community or services and collect that money and still meet the requirements of that infrastructure implementation window. So it's something that it definitely needs more study before implemented, but it's important to hear that the community believes it could be a solution. Doesn't mean it has to be a solution.
And I believe that one of the big things that people need to understand is that impact fees cannot be used to pay for ongoing expenses.
Correct.
It's only
Yeah.
for certain capital items that go for
Yeah.
new growth, not for the existing
Right.
people.
I don't think the public
Can't
knows
help
what
them.
an impact fee is. I think
Okay,
I
well-
think they have an idea that we can just say, give us X number of dollars.
We'll put that up on the website as well, and where appropriate in the general plan. So that's a really good point.
Mhm.
They don't know it, and it's complicated.
It is.
It's not because most people don't
Yeah.
understand what the purpose of it is. Concurrency of new growth. But the other item for impact fees for your community maybe there's just one area that's really important, and you just hone in on that one
Correct.
area. So it's not so complex that you can't do it,
Yeah.
but maybe roads would be one that I would say would be worth the time and investment to. There's may not be your sister town or community, but there are other communities that do have really good impact fees that have taken a lot of time to bring in the development community within Arizona together to get their buy-in. And, I truly believe that if you went to those communities and asked if you could work with them or have them provide you some guidance and even a template, they would be willing to do that. So some things to think about. Go ahead. Did you,
No, I was gonna say, let's keep on going.
on the next slide?
Yeah, let's go to
We're
the
good?
next slide.
Okay.
I want to go back to that other slide really quick.
You did?
Just really quick, because these are just some of those additional comments we received regarding public services. And I think it's just,
It's
it's
happened a couple of times.
something to additional comments to consider, such as not expanding any public services until the roads are fixed, lower that 10.25% sales tax, perhaps look for expanding tourism and economic opportunities through town hall and amphitheater for community events, looking at a tax for marijuana grow operations, then using that revenue to fix roads. That might be a little trickier. Cleaning up the weeds, so general maintenance improvements, more trash days and impact fees. Again, I just wanted to
Could
kinda
you
walk
go
through that
back to
list.
the handwritten one of
Yeah,
that, please?
that was intended to summarize the
Right,
handwritten.
I understand.
Okay.
Read that top one for everybody, would you please?
Can we put a 5-year hold on expanding public services and fix the roads and reduce 10.25% tax rate?
Read the rest of it,
Yeah.
please.
Somebody said, why 10.25% tax? How about we eliminate it?
And you see all the dots right there?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay, so.
Everyone in agreement?
So, that's, there's no words for that.
Now, but do keep in mind, you count the dots. There's, 11 dots there. That's 11 dots of how many people we've engaged.
90 people were there.
Yeah,
last
but they
night.
ran out of room.
No, I think they would have found room.
Oh, I think they would have
Give 'em a
found
little
room.
bigger box over there.
And make them all one person's dots too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true too.
It's amazing how they wanna take away our funding and yet want us to do more. So
Well,
it's.
part of that exercise we had with the yarn, with the $4 million, was eye-awakening for them, and we do this purposely, to find out $4 million doesn't give you a lot. And it's so difficult for all of you to prioritize where that $4 million should be invested within your community for, in this instance, it was roads.
That would have been an interesting exercise for advancing sewer and water too. Because
No, that's a
people,
good
in the
one.
zoning meetings, people want the developer to bring water and sewer
Couple miles.
a couple of miles to the thing, and they don't have a concept of the expense of that. And that road thing, I'm suggesting that was a great experiment. Because people don't have a concept of it because they don't deal with it every day.
Right, exactly. We'll take that into consideration in the future. But
I mean, that's what we hear frequently is let the developer pay for bringing sewer and water to the property. Why do we have 20 septic systems on this property when the sewer's only 1.5 miles down the road? And
very expensive.
it's so expensive that it's not even feasible for the town to do something like that.
Pass-on costs would make affordable housing unattainable.
Yeah, well, that affordable
Exactly.
housing is a word that doesn't mean anything.
Anything else on this slide?
Not for me.
Oops, I went too fast,
That
sorry.
was fast.
Good, I think we're gonna make it. Yep, economic development. Okay, so again, I'll read this slide and you'll see the majority of the participants last night agree on what we're gonna talk about in regards to on the left-hand side, so economic development. So strengthen business opportunities by implementing and regularly updating a business attraction program. Developing, the second one is developing a business retention program. And the third one is pursuing incubators, co-ops, pop-ups, farmer markets, and partnerships to promote entrepreneurship.
What does developing a business retention program really mean?
Where was that one? Oh,
The
yeah,
second
yeah,
one.
yeah, the second one.
Chamber.
That's a good, that's a,
Yeah.
it is
He's
the chamber,
asking it,
it's,
you can't explain it, they don't know what they
No,
want.
a lot of communities will do a business retention program, and that it'll be a position and a program established in the Economic Development Department to work intimately with small businesses and with the Chamber of Commerce to understand what their needs are, what their struggles are, where their opportunities might lie, how the city can support, how towns can support them more, what can make their business become more successful, and where those improvements can be made.
It-
A lot.
and they educate them
There's
on the
education.
grants that are available for small businesses and larger businesses as well. And they do some educational programs on where to find workforce and to meet, to match up the skill sets
Do you think
within the
people who
community.
answered that way knew that that's the question you were asking?
Wouldn't that be SCORE?
We already.
Wouldn't that be SCORE that does that, other than the town or the chamber?
Yep, they could do it as well, right?
Are
It
you-
doesn't
are
have
you
to be
talking
the
about-
chamber, it could be an economic development arm of the town. It could be a nonprofit that is focused in on that. And why are 501c nonprofits so valuable to communities? They have access to so many grants. It's amazing. And they could really help rural communities. So, there's a number of retirees here, and I've been talking to a few recently as I'm looking at my future in 5 years from now, and they are just devastated when they retire. At least the friends that I'm talking to, they just feel like they need to do something, and so they're volunteering in their communities and literally going to city managers, town managers, and asking, what can I do as a volunteer for the community? Or can I stand up a nonprofit, 501c nonprofit, and get other volunteers that are from the technical retirees that have the time and want to have the passion for the community and can help. So that's another part of retention as well, and helping, coming together as a community. Okay, new businesses should include everything. That's good. We said that when we were having our little discussion. There were some, that disagree. So I'll go through. Agricultural and equestrian industries, mostly supportive. Fabrication and light manufacturing, mostly supportive as well. more so split on the warehousing and distribution side of the house. High-tech fabrication and assembly, also split. We thought that was a little odd. And then research and development, mostly supportive, and office and remote work was supportive, not a surprise. And of course, medical research and services was supportive.
That includes the
So, what does agricultural and equestrian industries mean?
So agritourism is
Not a
a
wide
very, very,
usage.
very big industry in many communities. That may be part of the tourism component that you may want to utilize to bring in revenue, but at the same time celebrate and preserve some of your equestrian heritage.
I guess the word industries threw me,
Yeah,
Yeah.
think
That's-
rodeo.
cause I'm thinking, saddle maker, horse trailer
be.
manufacturer.
Right.
We could use some more
Yeah.
Could be
areas.
that.
Yeah, the intention with it was to capture that broad cross-section of industries or operations that are related to agricultural and equestrian. So it could even be, seeing that it says businesses should include, it could be new, farmers, new farm fields. I mean, it could be, looking at different types of passive agriculture that exists right now. It doesn't mean that that is the only solution, but it did show where the community's preferences are, the types of industries that are pursued or identified in the plan.
That's interesting that the high-tech fabrication and assembly, which is a relatively clean industry, is split. Makes
We-
no sense.
We said the same thing. We were surprised at that. I wish we could get some additional information from the people who were in disagreement to find out why, right?
Yeah, cause I think they're misunderstanding what you're saying there.
Well, then
And
there's contradiction too. Retail, they don't want more feed and livestock supply stores, but they want more agricultural. and
Right,
industrial
and we were
industries.
talking about that as well today, and we thought, well, maybe it's because they think that there's enough feed in stores today in the community. We could be wrong. We were trying to figure it out, and maybe you could help us on that, right?
We really only have one.
We have
You
three
have one.
storefronts.
Okay, well, that's not the case.
We have three.
Well,
we got
one
one
main.
Town's got what,
Olson's.
11,000 people in it?
Olson's, Warren's, and then Pet Right.
Yeah, Warren's,
Actually, five, six.
but they're smaller.
You mean
There's
the one
6
right
of 'em.
there by, telephone?
Yes, why don't you go
Right
ahead?
here?
All right, so in continuing the discussion about the new retail and dining opportunities,
We've got 13,000.
more feed and livestock supply stores, the community said they disagree, we don't need more of that, but they did say they agree with more dining options are necessary. More family entertainment options, which is, again, we kept it kind of open so we could have that conversation with them there. And then more outdoor recreation and sportsman retail. So we thought with the passion the community has told us they have for open spaces and recreation and outdoor recreation, that this would be something that they also want to see, but it ended up a little bit more mixed than I think we anticipated.
I actually had feedback on that one.
Okay.
Someone asked me, well, what does this mean? More outdoor recreation, sportsman, retail. And I was like, well, if you think about sportsman and retail, think about like how I perceived it was like a big five, in that sense, like supporting outdoor recreation and
Right.
retail. And
Yeah, like, I mean, on the huge scale, Cabela's and,
Yeah.
Bass Pro and things like that. but-
Outdoor man?
Yeah, there you go. Sportsman's.
It's humorous.
REI.
I was
Yeah,
trying to bring humor.
REI. But, retailers that specialize in providing, goods and services for outdoor recreation.
it wasn't well
Bait and
understood.
tackle and hunting, specialty hunting shops.
Absolutely agree. I just don't think it translated.
Okay.
Thank you. It's good feedback. Appreciate it.
To attract new businesses, Chino Valley needs up-to-date and improved available tenant space, so stuff that's ready to move right into. The Great Western Corridor improvements, which was largely a no. Workforce training programs for targeted industries was a yes.
Do you think the public knows what the Great Western Corridor is?
I don't know.
I don't think
Yeah.
they do.
Some people did not know, but there were a couple of people holding court explaining it to everyone.
What is it?
Calling it
Oh,
on
so
the
they
map.
explain to everybody to say no.
Yeah. I didn't hear the lobby.
I just don't think the
The
public
extension
would
of
know what the Great
I don't
Western
know.
Corridor
Is that the thing to go to Prescott Valley, a roadway going that way?
Yes.
Oh, I would think a lot of people would be in favor of that.
So I'm glad you said that. So let's talk about the pros and the cons, right? So the pro would be that it goes close to
Old Home Manor.
Old Home Manor, where you want to potentially have the opportunity to guide development for entertainment, for tourism, multifamily, and bring people in from other communities to attract other people, I should say. So you could obtain some additional revenue from people outside of your community, just in the quality of life here. So that would be a positive, right?
The reality, though, is so small.
It's just not gonna do.
The reality would be so small, but correct today, right?
Today.
So do we want to think forward and just preserve it for the future? So there is enough right away if it ever, it's big visionary, right?
Some of the initial planning on that Great Western Corridor, though, took Chino Valley out of the picture, went right around us.
Correct. So that would be the negative. If you were,
Well, actually.
if you were looking at this,
No, it came in at
Right.
Caliche.
It's, the Great Western basically comes from 89A, comes up and then makes a hard right and goes over to 89 north, just outside of about 5 south.
Yeah,
So,
it's like
that's what
Caliche.
it is. Problem is, land's too expensive to buy. There's nobody's gonna put up the millions and millions of dollars to build something that's in the middle of nowhere.
you're right. And maybe you have a very good point. And maybe we don't add that to this 2040 plan. And maybe that's something that would be in the future, in your plan that you have to update in 5 years. Per state law, you update your general plan every 5 years.
Well, it could bring all the horse people out in
No,
Coyote
no.
Springs and Pajito Valley, would bring them into the equestrian facilities out at Old Home Manor, but I can't see all the stuff in PV that they can shopping.
10.
Right. So 10 years. It is 10 years.
10 years.
You had a question.
Who's the more?
I think
I said 5, yeah.
I was like, well, we're breaking.
I think you
Question.
should do 5 now. Yes, sir.
I think we need to consider too with the airport, that's gonna be expanding and getting bigger, so it's gonna be even getting more industry out here and more people. That's gonna be huge. Once that's in full swing in a few years, we're gonna see a big difference. It really is.
That is,
You
you don't,
need to talk fast, okay? The airport is growing because of Emmett. That's the only reason.
For now, but you wait till the industry's gonna be there.
10
You have,
years, maybe they'll have, you get you to Vegas and San Diego.
no, you can
That'd
have,
be
you have a
nice.
lot more industry than that, development with aeronautical and space, so that's already there. So it's gonna be even more so as we grow. You watch, it will.
so we're actually seeing airports become more and more economic catalysts for almost every community, even the rural communities. But you are correct, Embry-Riddle, it's there because of Embry-Riddle today. But I think that provides a question, it gives us a question, do you want to support more growth around the airport, or do you want to maintain it?
That's practical.
It's
We
not
have
for
no
us to
control.
decide. That's it.
No control.
That's what it does.
That's
True.
outside of our
It's
More
present
land
us.
between us and them.
True, but what you need, okay, maybe I didn't phase that, I didn't phase that correctly. There are land uses that you can guide in your community to support that airport, or an airport, so of course it would be that airport. So that's something that you could think about.
Motels and cover.
But in the interest of time, I think we're almost done. Okay, we're gonna go Old Home Manor, right?
Can I just make a clarification real quick? With the mixed uses of Old Home Manor, it's already established as a business park and there's no residential in there at all. So I'm a little bit confused as to why it's been being referred to as mixed use with residential being part of it, because it's
Because
not included.
that we heard that some people were recommending putting
They wanted-
affordable housing out there, putting
Okay.
multifamily out there, and in some cases, smaller parcel, single family. So, and that's a great, if we need guidance from you on that as well. Do you want to maintain it as an employment center only?
Could be like that
Bosses.
for
And that's why
workforce
they want
housing out of the
affordable
company.
housing
Houses?
close to workforce.
It's like a
It's an
workforce
ideal
housing
place
location.
for Family housing out there when you have the workforce right
And we
there.
made it a
I
business
think
park.
for those of us that have been around for a long time, Old Home Manor was always going to be built to be the industrial center of Chino. And I think that thought process may have to change, as time goes on and start thinking more about the mixed use.
So what we heard was that, we don't want the higher density single, or higher density residential, we'll just categorize it as that, in the more mature community. So let's locate it over here with the employment area. And sir, you had a really good point for easy access to the workforce, to where the employment center is. That would be a good compatible use and support. So, okay. Old Home Manor is, so this is going to answer some of our question. Business park. It's a little bit split there, a little bit more on, yes, we agree with that. Commercial, majority agree. Tourism industry
Kind of split.
is split, which we thought was odd.
And yet the sports and recreation facilities is overwhelming.
Yes,
My
and
goodness.
there's already some out there, but educational facilities, interestingly, is split a little bit there. And we have education facilities. Moderate density residential, less than a half an acre. They all disagree.
They
So
just
we
don't
heard-
want it anywhere.
Right, correct. So, but when we asked them where, if we had to put it anywhere in Chino Valley, where would you put it? And we heard overwhelmingly over here.
Wait,
Except
you
right
heard
there.
Old Manor.
I said over here, new
Yeah,
old
it's
home.
Old Manor, that's the
Yeah.
Old Manor. Okay, so that's
Yeah.
kind of weird, because they're overwhelmingly telling you that's where they want it.
Supporting
but
where
yet
they want
there,
it.
they're saying, no, they don't want it at all.
That's what we could not understand. So again, we're looking to all of you to help us.
What is or what is they want to become. They might be
So the next exercise also changes that up a little bit too.
Yeah.
They don't want it anywhere, but
Can you
if it's
go-
gonna go
can you go
anywhere,
back real
that's the
quick?
place to put it.
not my
Where,
backyard.
where a town center should be
Nimby's the place
developed,
to put it. Nimby.
a town center meaning a strip
A
mall,
new-
a mall, some kind?
No, town center, like a new city hall.
Oh.
Where there's gathering places
Town
for the
hall?
public, amphitheater, and other, right.
The central business district where everybody can
Yes.
congregate.
Yeah,
and go-
yeah,
okay.
someplace you can have a public
Right.
gathering area, have retail,
So like the courthouse in Prescott, it's the community square.
Exactly, exactly.
That's what Memory Park is.
Mesa Riverview.
Free dog people.
These were the additional comments that we heard. We need a
Yeah,
town
we're
lake.
worried about water. Come on, let's get real here. That's ridiculous.
We're gonna put the water in there. Mini golf or more activities.
And mini golf with natural grass.
Would be great for medical facilities and assisted living, a nature center, more equestrian opportunities, take advantage of the Jerome Justin Old West town.
I should say junction.
Junction.
Oh, Junction.
Oh,
We could not read it, and we apologize, so we will fix that.
From Justin. Sound like an old time.
Justin's gonna be my new word.
Okay. Few more slides, and we're done. So we have 5-6 minutes.
Okay, so in a very surprising turn of events, we had a lot of higher density development opportunities. So this was an activity. We had a bunch of tables with a blank slate of the town and asked people to identify where they want to see certain types of development within the town. We gave them opportunities for different residential densities, kind of thinking they weren't going to bite, but a lot of people did. And the underlying theme of this was anywhere they didn't put anything down is going to remain, or we assume it's going to remain one dwelling unit per acre at a minimum. And I've been eyeing this all night, so I'm going to use it. So this is our first look, kind of our first compilation of the future land use map. This is very, very draft, right, very draft. So this is just a compilation of the feedback we received. So there was what we're calling medium density, 1 to 4 dwelling units was kind of sprinkled on the peripheries of, and this is just kind of the center of town. We didn't include some of the further out areas. There was opportunity for these, but people didn't really bite on that. So this was kind of the activity center where people had a lot of different thoughts here. And you'll see they actually, a couple of people did have the higher density 9 to 12 dwelling units per acre, thinking this could be kind of the town core. This is around 2 North, I believe, and 89.
So that's our core today.
Right. So this is, and it's identified in this future land use map as well for the current general plan. But it looked at, bringing some high density, kind of have some maybe walkability around here, lowering down the density around here, having the commercial restaurants. Couple thoughts for having the town center that we talked about. Predominantly, people wanted to keep along the 89 as commercial and bring in some new restaurant areas there. Up at Old Home Manor, we had a separate map where they could do just this area, kind of map out what they thought. It was pretty much commercial was the main theme there. This is a park. Nobody wanted to move the town center here. This is just that existing park there. And then there were some thoughts for some kind of mid-density workforce housing up in that area as well. So this is just, we put this together in today. We're going to be looking a little more detail about what we've received, but we also want to get your thoughts tonight on, is any of this on par? What else should we look at? Because this will help us as we start developing that land use map.
Do we have control of any of that land other than Old Home Manor?
No.
Nothing substantial that we're aware of.
Are you talking about ownership?
So I'm looking at the medium density, it's very spotty. Are there any models that you've seen or done where a town had spotty land use designations?
I mean, it kind of follows the 14 map.
Yeah, it does.
Well, the
For the most
corridor part, everything on the corridor does.
That, the medium density, some of that stuff is so far out, will it ever even come up for sale in the next 20 years?
Well, there's no roads out to most of it
No.
either.
Those are kind of irrelevant, those outlying ones, but.
Not my neighborhood.
No,
Yeah.
like he says, it's not gonna happen in
That's
20
just
years,
it.
so.
They're putting it
They're-
way out away from their back.
The 89 corridor and the two north is pretty accurate.
Those yellow circles out there are irrelevant,
Yeah.
totally. But that doesn't mean they're not necessary.
Right.
And that's where I think there's a little bit of a disconnect here in that may be where people want them, but in the reality of it is 4 lots to the acre is not a bad setup. And I'd be enthused if it stayed that big in the future. Because it's gonna become so expensive to develop things that would be an extravagant subdivision in 20 years, I think. And
Plus, you had a developer like Deep Well Ranch come in and buy up a part of the ranch and move the whole community out there.
and I wouldn't want that at all.
And that's just it. That's open range land that everybody wants their open grass
Yeah.
fields.
It's,
Yeah, if you look at the other map, that's
I think we need to do better.
your very first map of, that was all to remain open space.
So the yellow oval to the west of 2 North and 89 is already slotted for a development and an apartment complex.
Yep, and
That's
a-
already
That's a
And then
fairly high density one, if I
extremely
remember
high
correctly.
It would be in the red, yeah,
Behind
or the
Wahlberg.
gold, or
Brown.
whatever that is, high density,
The brown?
brown, yeah.
Yeah, behind Wahlberg.
And we did that, what, 4 years ago, 5 years ago?
2017. 2016.
So, you know,
Okay.
I was gonna go back to that comment about, you know, what land do we control? And it was clear that, you know, you were referring to ownership. But being that this is the future land use map, and it's a policy, it's a guide for the community and developers and landowners to consider how the land use should be used in the future. It doesn't mean that you can require land that's zoned differently today to be rezoned to this if the developer or landowner has no interest in rezoning. But if they do have an interest in rezoning, they would have to follow this moving forward. So part of the question is, and I think you're kind of getting there as well, the answers saying that there's a necessary need for medium density residential, but maybe not everywhere it's shown here. And there's more to that than just, this is the hinterlands or this is the grasslands and we don't want it out there. But the practicalities that denser development's gonna have water and sewer services. You know, they're not gonna be able to take advantage of septics and wells in the same way. They'll have to find a way to create a community water system or connect to the existing community water systems like Chino Valleys. So that's a consideration when forming this map is we know that medium density is needed, but where does it make sense in terms of where it can connect to existing infrastructure? So we know that there's sewer lines through here and water lines that serve some of this area. Is there capacity available to service those? If we did put more medium density there, is that the right place? Or do we want to have developers and development landowners establish new separate private water systems and treatment plants?
We've heard negative comments about that in the zoning meetings.
Right, but realistically, without getting into any of the engineering aspects of this, future development is to the east. And that's also based just on our water and our infrastructure. You know, so there's more yellow circles on the right side than there are on the left. So that's pretty consistent with, you know,
Well, the
where
town-
master development can happen.
Town doesn't go any farther west.
The town limits
Yeah.
there.
Well, that's true too. But they're also running, well, I don't wanna get into that.
Can we create the map to where they're not just little isolated islands of area?
That was part of what I was alluding to, is that, you know, that they may not be illustrated in a way that's most effective as these islands.
So the northeast there.
Yeah, but if there were to be consolidated,
South of,
where
Old
would
Home
we, where would
Miner,
we look?
Old Home Miner South is where Bright Star's already at.
Well,
It
and
makes
Fletcher's
sense to
development is right there
Chino
too,
Valley.
Yeah.
and that's gonna be
So right
medium
beneath
high.
Old Home
Yep.
Manor.
We're all-
Yeah, that
Right.
area.
Behind
Right where your
Mhm.
hand is,
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
there is a proposed development for medium high density.
Is it approved already, entitled?
Yeah.
Yep.
It is.
Yeah, and in between the two,
That's
right there,
Fletcher's,
right,
right?
right there,
Yeah.
below that,
Right here?
I believe that
So-
area is.
So this is an opportunity to get the medium density land uses on this to align with what you've approved now. And then the question would be, are there other areas that you would be, it would be appropriate to approve more of that in this area that may not be zoned that today or entitled?
So
Yeah.
I
Sorry.
think we're focused on these circles a little too much, and only because we did quick circles looking at all the different exercise results, right? So what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be looking at existing land use today, rebars in, that's not gonna change, there may be some redevelopment in some cases, but we're gonna look at existing development. We're gonna look at what parcels have been already entitled and approved, but not built yet. And so then we're going to look, we're gonna step back and look at that. We're going to do a model on what lands are developable. So then we're gonna take out all the non-developable lands because of there's not wetlands though, but
Yeah.
because of whatever environmental constraints and such, right?
Lake.
So we're gonna look at that. Then we're gonna be looking at, the the national standards for community your size of a good mix of land uses. So we're going to be looking at that as we move forward to help guide a future land use map for you. And then we're going to take into consideration all of the input that we received from all of you this evening and the public and tomorrow from the steering committee. And provide you, one or a couple concepts of how you could grow, right? And how can we have low-density residential transition to medium-density residential and do more of the transitional type of land use planning, but provide some flexibility to be able to have the market drive what is needed at the time. And, going back in 2014 was we were just pulling out of a very, very bad recession. The other, I swear this isn't working, but I'm trying to speak louder. The other, but form, right? Do you really want to see residential in a linear fashion all the way along 89? I know if you kind of drive, there's commercial. It's key locations, so you'll think it's all commercial, right? But do you want to take the opportunity to start to consolidate or cluster commercial at those major key intersections, but yet where there's existing commercial, obviously they would stay. And maybe we have a couple different categories of commercial, the type of commercial, right? So that would be one question we would have for you. And then the other big question before we leave is Old Home Manor. Do we want it just to be an employment center or core like the 2014 Flume future land use map? Or do we want to look at this area to provide the opportunity to bring in some multifamily, lower affordable single-family homes, workforce housing to support that employment activity center or core? Yes, Councilwoman.
Okay, so, not to be redundant, but I'm going to be. The yellow oval is already approved.
Right, okay,
Okay.
that's,
Okay, so then if you move to the east,
where's that pointer? Okay, you got it, it's all right.
okay, all right, that's already approved. Now go to the east. Keep going to the third, one more yellow, one more. That's approved.
Okay.
And you can even go farther east after that.
That's actually, well,
Further out is Haystack, isn't it?
that's not the 1 acre, that's the small.
It's part of Fletcher's.
Yeah,
Fletcher's is 1 acre. And it's a mix, right?
he
It's-
changed it. He changed it back.
I don't think it went through, we've got.
I have a question.
Okay,
Lori,
so-
do you have a map of all the recent entitled?
Basically, that's my thing, is that everything is already kind of maxed out as far as, there's so many things that are waiting to be built out. A couple different apartment complexes on 2 North, on the west side of the road.
Right there.
Mhm. Yeah, and then right at Perkinsville and 1 East, there's almost 200 homes being built right there.
Yep.
By this
And
one?
then it's just already, I think that's,
Maxed out.
it's already maxed out. I don't know.
I think that's maxed out. I think the commercial's maxed out down 89. You know, you mentioned every node. I mean, we're pretty much maxed out. We got one section left
You
on
have
one north or
Right.
one south on the corner there by Days Inn. That's pretty much the only place we can go. And commercial's dead. Retail's dead in 20 years. Nobody's
Retail,
shop-
right? We're
nobody's gonna
thinking
shop
more
on it.
of the entertainment, the restaurants, boutique.
Grocery store?
Let's not forget about the
Possibly, or
grocery
it
store.
might, it's probably gonna be all delivery by then, and there's gonna be a Whole Foods warehouse
Yeah.
down here, and everybody's gonna get their food delivered.
Old Home Manor, you need.
It's gonna
the
change a lot in
warehousing
20
and-
years.
But they didn't want warehousing.
Well, and another thing to
No
bring
taxes
up
on warehouse.
is that we
It's
haven't
all
looked at
wholesale.
is if the
Doesn't benefit
Arizona
us.
Trust goes through for Del Rio Springs, there'd be more need for tourism, for motels and that, out that direction. I don't think we
That's
have
further
the commercial
north.
district going out that far yet, do we?
What, the map kinda cuts off.
No, but even our old map, we don't have commercial going out that far.
It's up top.
No, north.
Keep
Way
going
up.
right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
between
same.
the two. 'Cause
That's an
if-
area for expansion of commercial.
Yeah, 'cause if the big farm out there where the water headwaters to the Verde goes in, it'll be a huge state tourism attraction.
Is that where we walk?
Yes, it's near where we walk.
And if that goes in, there'll be more need for like hotels and fish bait, that kind of thing out that direction.
Okay, well, it is 8:10, and we're 10 minutes past our time, but it was an amazing, very healthy, and very valuable discussion tonight. If you have any other comments or input that you would like to provide to us,
Well, isn't that MA Perkins right
a
there?
number of ways.
On the
You could
right.
contact Lori as the project manager
Far right.
for the town. You could go
That's
onto the
MA Perkins.
website and
And
upload
then to
comments.
the
There's a tab that
west,
says
that is
comments.
TriStar.
And or you can
Yellow
call any one of us
is
directly
There's
as
There's
well.
gonna be one more opportunity to address anything before it goes to the council review, right?
There's the public, the 60-day public review period, and we're gonna be working closely with the steering committee. If you want another session like this, we would need to work with Lori.
So that would be.
Thank you.
Oh. What's next?
Wait, let them finish up here. We've been here this long.
You have an autograph.
Hey, guys, we're not done yet.
I just wanted to, on behalf of our team and the town staff that have been very, very helpful, thank you very much for all your insight and input.
Thank you.
You guys have done a good job.
Thank you, guys.
I just started one by other.
I do, you know what I really foresee?
That's what my wife knows.
They say the copies of the stuff that they had from the community meeting. That's from the.